So, ladies and gentlemen, highly anticipated new show on the Roundtable Sports Network. Maybe I'm not speaking for everybody watching, but I am speaking for my damn self. Myself and Jay Tuck, we've been talking about this show for quite some time, and finally, it is now coming to fruition. Roundtable CFB, admittedly so, Jay Tuck. I forgot that YouTube basically ended up telling you that you're supposed to give 24-hour notice right before you live stream on a brand new channel. So it's not where the show is supposed to be, folks. I have pinned where the actual show is going to be taking place on Monday and Thursdays, but we had to hop on and have this conversation. How you doing today, man? In Florida State here, I see, by the way.
Yeah, sometimes, and that's the spirit of college football, Dan. It's just like you represent regardless. Now, a few years ago, I felt like my nose got robbed and we could have possibly competed for possibly a national championship till Jordan Travis unfortunately got injured. Last year was a complete debacle, so we'll have to see how rebound this year. We got Alabama at the gate, which we'll talk about, man. But I love college football. It's something that's a passion of mine. I know everybody watching right now. Saturdays just feel different. I know a lot of us do NFL content, but there's something about Saturdays. You wake up, you see Lee Corso and, college game day, the energy is there. I love college football, man. So when you announced that we're going to start this channel, I said, sign me up, bro. Let's do it. Let's have some fun. Salute to everybody out there. I see people already in chat. Go Noles. Salute to my Noles out there.
So the Noles are in there, man. I'm seeing quite a bit of SEC. I'm seeing some Big Ten. We're going to do our best to make sure that we touch each and every single conference, ladies and gents. Biggest piece of news that came out, and obviously still waiting on the AP poll, but I'm not sure if you saw this bad boy, all right? But the coaches poll has officially been released, and I got to tell you, a lot of fan bases have been absolutely crashing out about particular teams not being featured, some teams being a bit higher than initially anticipated, and look, right? It's a lot of speculation. Much like the NFL, we don't know how these teams are going to look. And that even goes with the great Arch Manning, all right, at number 1 for the Texas Longhorns. For all we know, he's not going to come to fruition. Maybe this team is not number 1. Maybe it's Penn State. But at first glance to you, what stands out as something that doesn't sit well with you? What team or an absence of a team starting off with this top 25 do you not agree with? Talk to me.
I think the tricky one for me, I know there's a lot of excitement when it comes to South Carolina. Lenore Stellars is a quarterback. If you play the video game, I know a lot of y'all probably play the video game, man. It's a dynamic quarterback. They got Nick Harbour out there. And I feel like he's going to have a meteoric rise as we kind of gear up for draft season because he's going to be one of those dual threat quarterbacks. But for me, I just feel like with the SEC calendar and the schedule that they're going to have, I think maybe you're pushing around 8 to 9 wins. So 13 probably be a little bit high for me when it comes to South Carolina, though I do like them. Who would I replace them with? That's a tricky question. I know Boise is up there, Texas Tech. I think BYU should possibly be a little bit higher. They lost last year to Colorado, but they were one of the dominant defenses in all of college football last year as well. So they'll probably be able to kind of return to that spotlight in the Big 12. So I'll probably have BYU a little higher. And then Miami, right? It's not the Noles.
You're going to say Miami.
I was trying to hold off on that, right? But Miami, they do have Carson Beck and they do have some players returning, but I think Miami's a little too high to be in the top 10. So they'll probably be the first things that really stood out. But I think number one thing that stood out to me when I saw this list, when you sent it to me, we get to settle 1 and 2 out the gate. We get to settle.
Oh, we do.
Out the gate. So it's going to be definitely exciting to see.
Is my buddy Z-Bot was just on the Bills Roundtable about a half hour ago. And he was just like, I know it was just announced that Penn State is the best team in college football. We were ranked number 1. I'm like, I'm not sure that's right. But then I remembered that Ohio State and Texas are actually facing off on week 1. And quite a bit of questions will be answered behind that. And look, and so I look at this list, and I would have to agree with you with Miami. I don't think that Hurricanes fans are setting themselves up enough to realize how much of a downgrade Carson Beck is to Cam Ward. I don't think people realize that. Look, I had to deal with watching Carson Beck play football for the Georgia Bulldogs last year. And when I tell you that man is a walking interception, he is so irresponsible with the football. I don't see how they crack the top 10 once the official AP poll ultimately ends up coming out.
Right.
Maybe they can rely on some of the like returners coming back from last season. Maybe Carson Beck truly was just trying to please Kirby Smart by being a gunslinger, since Georgia did not have a run game to save their lives last year, which
Mhm.
is completely out of the question and not uniform to what they typically run. But so with Carson Beck, I'm sorry, Miami fans,
Yeah.
it's not going to work out. You are going to be very upset with his play. It is a significant drop off here. I think one of the biggest things for me was with the Oklahoma Sooners. Many
Yes.
people were upset that they were not featured on this list. And
Mhm.
I got to tell you, J Tuck, I love their defensive line.
Mhm.
I love their defensive line. I also think that John Mateer may very well be one of the top quarterbacks in the SEC. I have him above Arch Manning. I have him above Lenora Sellers. I have him above DJ Lagway.
Mhm.
What do you think? Was that a miss, or should I not be on the believer train for the Oklahoma Sooners this year?
No, I think a lot of people are on the Oklahoma train, self included, right? I feel like they're going to have a much improved season, and you mentioned it, right, due to the quarterback position. So, if I did have to have someone that's probably I would put in there, would probably be Oklahoma. I'm trying to think where would I put them though. Because I felt like last year, let's be honest, Indiana kind of got disrespected a lot, but they were a very high
Yeah.
quality team. So I don't want to maybe say top 20, but they should have definitely been the top 25. I would probably have them over Texas Tech or possibly Iowa State. As far as Oklahoma. And I think once we do get to the AP, you'll probably will see Oklahoma in there because a lot of people are high on Oklahoma coming out the SEC. Now, they do have a tough schedule, of course, right? But I do think that they'll probably crack the top 25 when it comes to the AP comes out.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? It's definitely interesting when it comes into the SEC because, like, right now, we're looking at quite a few teams in the top 10 already. You have
Mhm.
Texas, have Georgia, have Bama, have LSU. Of course, the Florida Gators, which I believe are a bit low when it comes into it.
Mhm.
I think my biggest thing was last year we only saw 3 SEC teams make the college football playoff.
Mhm.
I'm kind of on board right now where I kind of think that they are going to have a complete switch up in 2025. And we're going to see the SEC dominate with the contributors to the playoffs opposed to the Big Ten. 4 to 5 teams from the SEC and perhaps about 3 from the Big Ten. Is that the same sense that you're getting, or are you still a Big Ten believer?
Oh, that's a tough question. I
Yeah.
mean, just looking at it early, I feel like maybe 4 should squeeze in as far as the SEC is concerned. I think Texas will be there, Georgia will be there. Alabama is a full complete team, which we'll talk about here in a second. And then it's
Yeah.
going to come down to whoever else squeezes in. You have LSU, you have Tennessee that's already mentioned, Florida. So I feel like maybe 4 teams for the SEC will probably squeeze in this year. When you look at the Big Ten, you have Ohio State, you have Penn State, Oregon, Michigan. I'm trying not to. Ooh, it's
Yeah.
going to be tight. So you're probably looking about 4 to 5 from the Big Ten, and I would say probably 4 um, in the SEC if I'm looking at things, because also you have to probably toss in SMU will probably be a stronger team out of the ACC. I think Clemson, someone's mentioned in the chat as well. I think Clemson is going to be a sleeper to be one of the top teams in college football this year.
Oh, yeah.
So I think some of those other teams from different conferences might get a little bit more than they got in last year, which can probably squeeze out some of those Big Ten or SEC teams that's kind of on the borderline.
We have Tyson coming on in. He's a Crimson Tide fan, man. A Roll Tide fan is in the chat. He's saying that LSU and Tennessee will not be involved in the playoff next year. I'm not sure about you. Um, I'm not sure that I agree about LSU. I
Mm-hmm.
think they sneakily have a very dangerous offense.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, with
Feet
Garrett
all over the
Nussmeier.
field.
Um, but with Tennessee, I'm not bought into the Tennessee Volunteers
Yeah.
this year. I'm
Yeah.
not, man. They took a massive step back, like right at the quarterback position, bringing in
Mhm.
that one kid that has a massive turnover problem. I know
Mhm.
they ended up dodging a bullet with the so that one contract and NIL deal where that kid ended up going over to UCLA. But
Mhm.
I'm not particularly on top of that Tennessee train either. I don't
Yeah.
think that there's going to be a spot for them. And I
Mhm.
do think that they are going to see a significant downturn in 2025. That's a team I could see
Yeah.
really disappointing.
Yeah, Tennessee is always a tough one, right? Because we know what their offense is. It's the spread offense, but it's not built for, bowl season when it's time to really get
No.
nitty-gritty versus the Georgias, versus the Bamas, versus, the Texases of the world. It just does never fare well in their favor. So I would probably have Tennessee on the out when it comes to the SEC. Um, I don't think Oklahoma's going to make that large of a leap to get in. So yeah,
No.
I would probably have Tennessee out. Oklahoma would probably be out. It all depends on Florida, I would probably say as well, if they can possibly push, because I'm extremely high on DJ Lagway, but they still have a lot to prove. You also have Ole Miss in the thing in the running as well, but yeah, I don't think that Tennessee will probably make the CFB this year.
No, it's definitely going to be tough. But so I look at this list, and so I see one team that has found their way right back up the middle, and that just so happens to be the Michigan Wolverines. Of
Mhm.
course, winning a national championship on Harbaugh's way out, completely dodging any sort of repercussions from what he did with that
Mhm.
organization by going over to the NFL. But I think a lot of it has to do with this young man right here, Bryce Underwood.
Uh-huh.
From what I understand, we saw Dave Portnoy sign him to a mega deal on NIL, right?
Mhm.
And most Michigan fans are saying, hey, like we keep talking about Penn State and we keep talking about Ohio State as
Mhm.
being the perennial Big Ten conference championships. Watch out for the Michigan Wolverines with their brand new 5-star quarterback.
Mhm.
I got to ask you, are we buying into that right now with Bryce Underwood being able to potentially bring this team into playoff contention? Because I got to tell you, Jay Tuck, their schedule is pretty favorable. I'm
Mhm.
not going to lie to you.
Mhm.
Talk to me.
Yeah, when it comes to Bryce Underwood in actually Michigan, the one thing is like he's inexperienced, as he already mentioned. But we all seen Michigan scheme. It doesn't take a terrific quarterback for them to get over the hump, right? They're going to have a good offensive line, solid run game, solid defense, and they're going to play Michigan football. So now that you do have a quarterback that can pretty much command the ship, it should put them over in the runs of things as far as the Big Ten's concerned. But it's the inexperience I really can't trust, so we'll have to sit back and
Yeah.
wait and see. But I think that Michigan will definitely be improved versus what they had the quarterback the last year. And then even with JJ McCarthy, right? JJ McCarthy didn't have to do much at the University of Michigan during that run that they had. So if they can reel Bryce in, make sure there's not mega turnovers, that can control the tempo, nickel and dime, get it to your playmakers, I feel like Michigan's going to be much improved. Will they be in the top of the Big Ten? Probably, because they beat Ohio State last year, so they're able to win ball games. So I think being vastly improved at the quarterback position should help. But like I said, he's very inexperienced. So what to sit back and see, because once you get there, big time college football, you might get a little shaking and rattle a little bit under pressure. So we'll see how the kid fares out.
Now, are they making a mistake? So are they making a mistake for rushing him out year one? It's not
Oh,
confirmed yet that he's been named QB1, but I think it's pretty clear that he's going to be. Would you say that it's a mistake?
no, because that's where the money is.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah. Fair
so
enough. Fair enough.
it's a different dynamic this year in college. Just this era in college football, because you're paying more than likely you're playing, right? Because it could be a situation where someone else offers him more money next year. You could lose the kid, right? So I think they're really going to try to get the opportunity out there for him to play early. Now, he might not start originally out the gate, right? But I think you're probably by 2 to 3 weeks, he will definitely be the starter, if not even earlier. So I don't think it's a mistake. Let the kid take his lumps. If he's the most talented quarterback on their roster, which I do believe he does, he has the biggest upside potential. So you want him to cut his lumps and get ready. So then by the time you're going through the Big Ten and things kind of get thick for you at the end of the season, that he'll be ready, take his lumps. And like you said, when you have a young quarterback, the scheme can sometimes help him. The running game can also help them. So you have to kind of just mold him in that mold. And I think eventually he'll be able to take off and excel in this offense.
So it's a hot take, man. But like I mentioned, like this schedule, starting off the season against New Mexico.
Right.
Okay. Oklahoma,
Right.
who we did give flowers to earlier in the episode for having a very good defensive line. That's going to be a test. But J-Tuck, if this dude gets past Oklahoma, like he has Central Michigan win. I love them against Nebraska, surprisingly enough. I'm not a Rayola fan. We have Wisconsin.
Even though he looks like Mahomes.
Yeah. Exactly. And there's only one Mahomes, all right? So have Wisconsin, who I think their head coach is going to be fighting for his job in the first place. USC, that could be a toss-up, but I'm going to lean Michigan here. Washington, Michigan State, Purdue, probably the worst team in the Big Ten. Northwestern, Maryland, and to top off the final game of the season against Ohio State, which, let's be completely honest with ourselves, Michigan has owned Ryan Day.
Right. He has. But Ryan Day got that new extension. So hopefully that should change according to Ohio State fans. But yeah, so looking at the schedule, I would 1000% start him now, looking at the schedule, because you can kind of get that filler game versus New Mexico, right? He might take his lumps versus Oklahoma, but after that, like you said, it should be smooth sailing. So yeah, I would probably think the kid is probably going to start. Yeah, absolutely.
He's going to have to, man. He's going to have to. And someone I was talking to the other day, which is actually pretty interesting, they were talking about Ryan Day, that if he did not win the national championship, he likely would have gotten fired.
Crazy.
That is how important it is for Ohio State to beat Michigan each and every single year. Right. And the one stain on his resume was that he just could not get it done.
Right.
Whether or not that it was Harbaugh, whether or not that it was Harbaugh, whether or not that it was the interim head coach that beat him last year in one of the ugliest games I think I've seen in college football in quite some time. What do you think, man? If, for example, that Ryan Day has yet another quality season but loses to the Michigan Wolverines once again, let's say hypothetically that they get second rounded in the playoffs, is Ryan Day's job safe to you?
I think it is. I think the national championship drastically helped last year. It kind of gave him a bridge. And of course, I know that's an important game, but the ultimate goal, of course, is to win the national championship. So since he did that last year, plus he's able to bring in a loaded recruiting class, whether that's due to NIL or recruiting, it just is what it is. So I feel like, one, if he beats Texas week 1, Ohio State has the season that we think they will have, and they lose to Michigan, but let's say they get knocked out the second round of playoffs, I think there'll be some frustrated Ohio State fans, but I think he'll be safe. But now if you lose to Texas, you try to start to make a push a little bit, then you lose to Michigan, maybe sneak into the playoffs, and then you lose early, they'll start to have those tough conversations again, even though he did get the extension. But I think Ryan Day is safe, to be honest with you, Ohio State. And I feel like, man, their wide receiver core with Jeremiah and Tate is going to be phenomenal. So, yeah, I think he's safe. Ryan Day will probably be safe.
He's safe from there, but it would be hysterical if once again he has an incredible season and just somehow loses another ugly one against the damn Ohio State or the Michigan Wolverines. We have a couple of super chats coming in. Guys, I do want to remind everybody that this is not meant to be on this channel. This was completely my mistake. Go subscribe to our actual channel. We will be live on there on Thursday. We have a great season lined up for you guys. We are going to continue to build this bad boy and just have a very engaged, loving show, because ball is only 4 weeks away. I cannot wait. We have our first super chat of the day saying, just walking in, I'm so pumped. We have a college football channel now. Let's go Dogs. Go Dogs, my friend. I appreciate that. Don't worry. We will be talking a little bit about some Georgia Bulldogs on this channel. I promise you that. J-Tuck, what will have to happen to move on from Mike? I've met him on campus, and he's a great guy, but we can't lose to the Gators again. Great show. Chris just came in with a $5 donation. And by the way, I forgot. Talk to me, man. What do you got?
Yeah, I feel like Mike Norville is on the hot seat, to be honest with you guys, because I feel like he cannot have another season like he had last year. The recruiting class hasn't been in the top 20 once again. So Florida State football is starting to struggle. And then when you have the success that Miami had last year, Clemson's going to be one of the top teams in the ACC. You have SMU, right? You're starting to fade a little bit. And like you just mentioned, Chris, losing to Florida is pretty much a no-no. Losing to Miami and losing to Florida, that's pretty much a no-no when it comes to Florida State football. So I love Coach Norville. I think he's an incredible guy. I hate what happened to him 2 years ago because I really felt that team with Jarrett Verse and Braden Fisk and Keon Coleman, your guy, was really built to compete for a national championship. But it feels like we just haven't been able to get back on track after that season. And we open up, unfortunately, in Tallahassee. Whole world will be watching on that Saturday versus Alabama, and Castellanos has been running his mouth. If we go out there and get embarrassed at home versus Alabama, I feel like that's going to set the tone for a lot of Florida State fans to start calling for Mike Norville's job. Because last year it was just, Georgia Tech and Boston College, and, the list goes on and on. I'm just like, what is happening with Florida State football? So we should be improved, but 2 years of lackluster performance from the Noles, it's just a no-go, right? We saw with, what was his coach name before Mike Norville? Came from Oregon. I forgot his name, right? But we saw what kind of happened with him. Even though he had great energy, he was a good recruiter, right? He wasn't winning ball games, and they ultimately got him up out of there. I feel like Coach Norville is definitely on the hot seat to show some improvement when it comes to Florida State football. I see.
So I got to ask, man, like you were 2 years removed from having that undefeated season, right? And then many would think that you got snubbed for that 4th seed. All right. Some of the Alabama fans may disagree with you there. However, what the hell happened last year? Was it just massive roster turnaround? Like, what was the problem with Florida State that made them, go from being undefeated, but then turn around and then like laying an egg in 2024?
Yeah, I didn't expect the drop off to be that massive, but of course, we lost a lot of incredible talent in the NFL draft, from Keon Coleman, Braden Fisk, Jarrett Verse, Johnny Wilson. The list goes on and on. So we lost a lot of talent. But just to be fully honest, our quarterback position last year was nothing to be excited about. We paid big money in NIL for DJ. Yeah. And it was just like,
God, I'm about to throw up.
I just like, man, it was so hard because a lot of my friends are Miami Hurricanes fans, and they were like, oh man, DJ. I'm like, bro, I wanted Cam Ward. Like trade me. So I kind of knew that we wasn't solid at the quarterback position. And if you ever watch success of Florida State football, it starts at QB1, whether that's Jameis Winston, Jordan Travis, the list goes on and on, all the way back to Charlie Ward. When we have a good quality quarterback, typically the Noles perform well. We just didn't have that last year, and we were throwing darts at the board trying to find something that works. We really didn't have the talented wide receivers that we usually have as well, and our defense was struggling. We had one decent corner with Azare Thomas, who went to the Jets out there, and he's always having a good camp already, but we just didn't have that star power. So I just think the Noles wasn't talented. We didn't have a good quality quarterback. We just didn't have what we traditionally have. And honestly, even when it comes to Castellanos, I'm still kind of nervous about it. I think he's going to be vastly improved from DJ, but it's not going to be a massive upgrade. So Coach Norville is definitely going to have, some coaching to do this year to see if he can pull it out. Because like I said, he can't afford another lackluster season.
So we have Tyson coming in saying, well, they got an entire team out of the portal and missed. If you get an entire team out of the portal and you either hit or miss, and if you hit, you get to the 2024 season. If you miss, you get into the 2024 season. I think what I have to say as well, and now I agree because I have been hearing reports about Norville going into this season. This is 1,010% on his recruiting capability. This is 110% on his recruiting. In fact, I'm kind of curious if you were to think that he should have been let go at the conclusion of last season, or did he buy himself an insurance policy from going undefeated the year before?
Yeah, I think he
What do you
earned a
think?
mulligan. I think he earned a
Okay.
mulligan, to be honest with you, because of all the turnover that he had, right? The fatal blow that he had not getting into the top four for the playoffs that year, losing Jordan Travis. So I think that, Florida State wanted to kind of see, okay, what's really going on. But honestly, to be fully transparent, I felt like one of the gut punches was when Mike Norville lost out on not Jordan Travis, on Travis Hunter, right? That was a hook, line, and sinker, and you lost him in the closing hours to Coach Prime. So, he just hasn't brought in, from a recruiting standpoint, those impact guys. Like Jared Verse was a transfer, right? He was a transfer from Albany, but you just haven't got top five-star talent that you can build on. Now, of course, when it comes to recruiting, things are changing, right? You can get a top 5 talent or 5-star talent, but then lose him in the transfer portal the very next year. So things are all over the place. But I just think that Florida State football has to get that cachet again where kids want to come play for Florida State. And it always goes in cycle, right? Even historically, Florida State will be on top. Then it's the Miami of the 2000s. Then you kind of go to the Tim Tebow phase. And, Florida State was kind of on top a few years ago, didn't make it to a national championship, but then it was Miami's turn last year. Now you're seeing people talk about Florida and DJ, right? So it's kind of going in that cycle, but Florida State is going to have to find a way to have that imprint where kids are wanting to come to play for Florida State. And I just don't think we have that right now, because if you have the opportunity to go play at Miami or even Clemson or, even Florida right now, I think they're on the priority list when it comes to going to Tallahassee.
I'll tell you what, man, can Norvell save his job? I have heard through so many people that cover college football that he's one of the candidates of losing his job midway through the season, opposed to actually like having it in the following off season.
Yeah.
We shall see. I do have a question coming in, which is interesting. Dan, what do you think of my Miami Hurricanes this year now that we have Carson Beck? Well, my friend, we did touch on this a bit earlier on in the show, but I got to tell you, my friend, you really, really need to curb your expectations if you think that this is by any stretch of the imagination an upgrade from Cam Ward, or you even think that it is a replacement for Cam Ward on a skill position set. You are going to be sorely mistaken. I am not a fan of Carson Beck. I promise you, he is going to make you rip your hair out for the entirety of the season. He's very reckless with the football. I know that during the ACC media days, he was going out there and he was trying to say that he's going to be a change quarterback. He doesn't feel as much pressure. He's the same. I am not high on the Miami Hurricanes because of the quarterback. J-Tuck, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, because if you think about it, you go back to Miami football last year, there was a lot of close games that they had and actually won, and a lot of that was due to Cam Ward, right? I just don't think that Carson Beck is that type of quarterback that can carry. And they lost some talent. They lost Xavier Restrepo, the Tennessee, Damian Martinez, like some of those guys. So I don't think Carson Beck is that quarterback. I think he's a decent quarterback, but he's not a guy that can carry your college program, right? And of course now he got the NIL money, he got the girl, he got the car, he got every, it's like I can't hate him on from that aspect, right?
But from 3 Lambos stolen,
Yeah, his Lambos. Like that should have been the first sign, right? As soon as you get to campus, someone steals your Lambo, so they're already probably submitting telling you a sign right there about you in Miami. But I just don't think he's the type of quarterback that can lead a program. He's the one that can possibly just drive the ship if you have surrounding talent around him, like you guys had the University of Georgia. So I'm not really a Carson Beck fan. So I think that's drastically going to impact the University of Miami. But, I think look at their schedule right now, what they have: Notre Dame out the gate, so that'll probably be a loss. And after that, they have Bethune-Cookman.
That's terrible.
USF, Florida, they can probably win. Florida State is at Florida State, so that can kind of go either way, but I'll probably give them a nod. Louisville, Stanford at SMU, which probably be a loss. Syracuse, possibly NC State, Virginia Tech, and Pittsburgh. So they do avoid Clemson this year. So they'll be in the hunt a little bit, but I don't think that's going to be the Miami that we saw last year by far.
It's probably going to be Clemson and Miami for the ACC championship.
Right.
Not unless Big Bill Belichick has something to say about it.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's all not sure about you. But it's funny looking at Bill Belichick, how he's transitioning from the NFL, and now he's going to be playing in a stadium that literally just has bleachers,
Right. It's gonna be
specifically the
awkward.
UNC Charlotte team. He's going to be traveling there, which
Right.
is insane. Like that literally looks like a varsity, like
Mhm.
sort of high school football stadium by itself. What are your thoughts and expectations for North Carolina this year? I think it's fair to assume that they're not going to be a playoff team. They're probably not going to win the ACC.
Mhm.
But is 8-4 crazy? Is 8-4 crazy for Bill Belichick year one?
I don't think that's crazy. I'm trying to pull up their schedule right now. So yeah, they were what six wins last year, 6-win
Yeah.
team, 6 and 7, something like that. So yeah, I don't think a Bill Belichick boost of 2 wins this year will be too far off. But the thing is, I'm just not sure what's his approach going to be, right? When it comes to the college games, completely different than the NFL level. You're dealing with kids, you're dealing with emotion, you're dealing with different kids getting NIL money. Like, how is he really going to fare with these kids? And also, what is the scheme going to look like? You know, you have wider hashes. It's just going to be a difference, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how things work out. But we all know Bill Belichick is one of the brightest coaches' minds in all of football. But it's a different beast, right? Sometimes you might have the football mind, but you don't have the talent. And I just don't think that they have the talent. If this was last year and Bill Belichick maybe would have had like an Amari Hampton, right? I'd be like, okay, you know, he can probably work with that, but I just don't think that he has the talent this year to be a serious contender. But I think they will improve from last year's 6 wins. So I'd probably say 8 wins. Let's see. They got TCU. That can probably be a push. Is that at home? TCU's at home.
Yeah.
TCU's at home. So yeah, he could probably win the home opener versus TCU. Charlotte, Richmond. So that's 3. UCF. I'm a huge closet UCF fan. You know, I love the Knights.
Okay.
I love their entire class with RJ Harvey last year and Kobe Hudson. So I would probably go with UCF. That one is a loss. Clemson is a loss. Cal would probably be a loss. They can probably get Virginia. Syracuse,
Stanford,
Wake Forest, Duke. So yeah, they can probably get to 7 or 8 wins, I think, in this first year in the Bill.
Yeah, 7 or 8 wins. It all depends on what his recruitment class is looking like. I have yet to check out 247 Sports to lock in and see how that is going. I don't believe that they are top 10 and 5 stars or 4 stars just yet. But I think that's going to be the real sign of whether or not that Bill Belichick is moving the needle for that program. Funny too.
I wonder how is he in recruiting? Like, what is that visit like? Bill Belichick coming to your house, you know, like
trying a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like just based off of his press conferences and based off of everything I've heard from back in the Patriots days.
Doing it.
Yeah, he's probably like, you know what? So you have it and you might as well use it, right? Because it's hard for me to see him getting chummy, like with an 18 or 19-year-old and like hyping him up and like just saying, well, as long as you just do your job, we'll be okay. Like that's, I don't necessarily like see him being a linguist in being able to convince some of these young players that come in. But again, he's got the resume. He has the pedigree. He's saying he's trying to make this organization a prerequisite to get into the NFL. He's trying to run it like an NFL program. So what's it going to be?
Right.
Big news that dropped a couple of weeks ago during SEC Media Days. Speaking of the UNC Tar Heels, sounds like that they are looking to bail on the ACC once their contract ultimately ends up running up. And rumors around the mill are that UNC wants to be a part of the SEC. That has been some news. And some people are even suggesting that Clemson as well is looking for an exit into the ACC. Do we see it happening? Would it be a smart move for this team to go into the SEC?
North Carolina, no. Clemson, yes.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's where I'm at with it. Now, me personally, just as a fan, I hate all these conference realignments and jumping from the ACC and you have Oregon, the big, like, I'm just like sick of it, right? Just get rid of the conferences, right? Because everyone wants to be in the SEC or the Big Ten right now. But I think if there is a team that would make sense, possibly would be Clemson. But it's just, I feel like the SEC is starting to get too overloaded where everyone wants to be in the SEC. So I think they would probably reject North Carolina. To be honest with you, Clemson would probably have a chance, possibly, right? Death Valley, because I've been to numerous games out there. If you ever want to go to a fun atmosphere, definitely go out there to Clemson. I mean, it was just amazing. Like, I went there, Florida State versus Clemson, and they treated me like family. I'm like, why are you guys being so nice to me? We get ready to play you guys, right? But it was just an amazing atmosphere. So I would probably say Clemson has a bigger chance than North Carolina. Yeah. Unless Bill Belichick has a massive impact and mega turnaround. And yeah.
So we have Gamma coming in saying Syracuse is the dark horse of the ACC. 10-win team last year. Keep an eye on Syracuse.
Yeah, love Syracuse football last year. They had, Kyle McCord. They had Aronde Gatson, who just played for the Chargers the other night in the preseason. Elijah Clark, who was a safety who went to the Dallas Cowboys as a UDFA. So Syracuse has some sneaky good talent. I can definitely see them being a 10-win team this year because I think it's going to continue. So, yeah, definitely look out for the Oranges.
Look out for them damn oranges. All right. Look at that, man. Look at that. Well, you know what, man? Like, you are located in Kansas and you cover a Kansas football team right on the side. But there is another Kansas team who has been getting a lot of hype. In fact, they have been featured as high as number 13 on the coaches poll. And that just so happens to be Kansas State, Big 12 team that largely wasn't in the equation this past year. But now people are starting to discuss these overall players and this college program. What can you tell us about this Kansas State football program? Why should we be hyped about them? Or is that exactly what it is? Just smoke and mirrors and hype. Are they truly Big 12 contenders?
Yeah, I don't think Kansas State is smoke and mirrors. We all know Kansas State football. They're always going to be in the thick of things. They're always going to be competitive. They have Dylan Edwards at running back. So he was in Colorado with Coach Prime, transferred back home, playing for Kansas State. So he'll probably be one of the top 10 running backs in this draft class. He's extremely shifty. Great offensive line, even though they just lost their offensive line coach in Connor Riley to the Dallas Cowboys, but they're always just a very blue collar team. So they're going to be in the thick of things. Do I think Kansas State could win the Big 12? Possibly. They're going to be close by the end of the season, but I still think that you're going to have to watch out for teams like Arizona State, who's going to be a tough team in the Big 12. You also have BYU, who I mentioned, Texas Tech, possibly, in Iowa State. So I think that if I had to gauge it, I think that Kansas State will probably be in the Big 12 championship. So they definitely have a shot because of how their roster is built. It's just very blue collar. They don't have the big names that you're probably used to, especially the wide receiver, but they're always going to be a tough competitive team, scheme wise and competitive. So I would probably have Kansas State in the Big 12 championship, if not pressing close.
Big 12 championship locking in. And then, you know what? Like, we'll just wrap this show because I feel like a lot of people that are tuning into this, maybe you're just getting into college football, or maybe they are just NFL draft aficionados and they want to get a good understanding of what this class looks like going into it. And my boy Noah comes in with a great question. He goes, Dan, top 5 wide receivers to keep an eye on this year in all of college football. So I'm not sure about you, Jay Tuck, but I think the easy answer is Smith.
Right. Yeah. Keep all eyes on Jeremiah Smith.
He's going to be the easiest answer, I would say. Ryan Williams, like, he's not going to be in the draft next year. He's still too young, but like, he'll probably end up being the second best wide receiver. Maybe he has something to say and he'll be competitive with Jeremiah Smith. I love the Clemson wide receivers. I love the Clemson wide receivers. I love Antonio Williams. I love Bryant Wesco as well. He is really going to turn that program around. That's why I think everybody is so high on Clemson, because how they were able to bring these guys in and hopefully make that elevation of their offense. I really like all of the Auburn guys too, because while Auburn is sort of in an interesting situation as far as where I see them finishing within the SEC, I think Hugh Freeze is also going to be fired, but I do think Auburn has the best wide receiving room out of everyone in the SEC. That's my list as far as players to keep an eye out on. What about you, Jay Tuck? Is there anybody else I missed?
Yeah, you mentioned, pretty much the main ones to watch from just a college football standpoint. Smith is definitely going to win. Cardell Tate on Ohio State as well, Ryan Williams. But draft-wise, I think by the time we get there, there's going to be a lot of people talking about Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. I feel like this is going to be a kid that's going to kind of shoot up, where he'll probably be top 3 conversation, if not wide receiver 1. So Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. Another kid who I really love, but he got injured, unfortunately, was Evan Stewart out of Oregon. So he is going to be out. So I'm not sure what his projection is going to be for draft season, but he was one of the kids I was definitely excited to see. I'm trying to think of anyone else. You mentioned Antonio Williams, Carnell Tate. I mean, if you just want someone kind of fun to watch, you can watch Deuce Robinson out of Florida State. He's going to kind of be in that conversation if he has a quarterback that can get him the ball. Jeremy Bernard, also out of Alabama. So those would probably be a few of the names I would keep an eye on. We already talked about Nick Harbor out of South Carolina. Like I said, if you guys play the video game, he's a damn creative player, 6'5", like 230. Have him at 98 speed for whatever, so it's like some of those players I would probably watch when it comes to college football. And let's see here, what would be a sleeper
wide receiver time here, folks?
Let me see. I want to see. That's not right. Yeah, I already mentioned Elijah Stewart out of Indiana. That'll probably be another kid that you guys can kind of watch. I'm trying to think who can kind of shoot up though this year that might be low on draft boards, but we'll kind of hear about it. I'm going to go with Eugene Wilson. The third out of Florida. He's a kid. I think he's like 5'11".
Slept on wide receiving core in Florida.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Eugene Wilson out of Florida because I think with DJ Lagway, I think Florida's passing attack is going to probably ramp up a lot this year. And so he'll probably be one of those top 2 wide receivers on their offense that can probably shoot up. So I'll probably keep an eye on him. And yeah, that's probably it. This is why I love this show, because now I'm gonna start my draft stuff super early. So those of you guys who follow me, I love draft content. So, even just getting prepared, it's hard because I'll get sidetracked, right? Because I was like preparing for the show and I was pulling up some film. Well, I started watching Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State, what I'm saying? Like, oh, all right, bro, you're supposed to be studying like teams, not players. But sometimes when I'm just watching teams, players will really jump off the board and I get excited. So I'm excited about this show, man. And it's going to be fun. We're really geared up because you guys are going to not only be fully informed with what's going on in college football, but draft season, you guys are going to like, oh, Dan already talked about that guy. Like we're already fully aware who to watch. And I'm thinking about doing some stuff where I'm going to start doing like my top quarterbacks to watch, top running backs to watch, top sleepers to watch early. So then that way when we gear up for Saturdays, you guys will already know and start to penciling. That's where the fun starts. It's fun where you're sitting back on a Saturday, having a few beers and some wings, and you're looking at this kid from Indiana and like, oh, okay, like he has something. And all of a sudden we get the drafts and like, oh yeah, I watched him play versus Wisconsin. So you're already ahead of the curve. So we're definitely going to have fun this year covering college football.
It's going to be a hell of a show, guys. Again, do us a favor. Hit and subscribe to that YouTube channel that is pinned at the top of this chat. That is where the show will be on Thursday. Very much looking forward to this season. We are going to grow this to the moon. We want to make sure that all of you are involved. We're not just going to be yapping and ignoring the live chat. We are also going to be accepting callers via our Patreon at Roundtable Sports as well, starting on Thursday. So, of course, fasten your seatbelts and let's get into yet another exciting college football season. Jay Tuck, is there anything you'd like to say right before we send them off?
Someone asked in the chat, if Mike Norville gets fired, you think that Florida State goes after Coach Prime? Probably not, because when they were trying to go after Coach when Coach Prime wanted to actually go there. Why can I think of that coach who was there before Mike Norville? He's right there. I couldn't stand him. But, they kind of outs Coach Prime, felt like he didn't have the experience. So I highly doubt that Coach Prime would go to Florida State. Especially he has the health stuff too as well. So I highly doubt it, though I would love it because I feel like that would be the shot in the arm that Florida State football would need. But I highly doubt that. So, but yeah, like I said, I'm excited. College football is among us. Week 1 is just going to be fun out the gate. I can't wait to break down those matchups because I'm just looking at the lineup. It's like where are we? Where's my break? I'm just going to be watching different games. So I'm excited for. Like I said, I love college football. I love the atmosphere. My Kansas Jayhawks, they lost a few starters, and Devin Neal, who went to the New Orleans Saints, so they're lost some guys. Luke Grimm, their top wide receiver, went to their Chargers. Not sure if he played in preseason, but they do get Jalen Daniels back, who had a up and down season last year, but I felt like the Kansas Jayhawks got hit because they lost their offensive coordinator, who I feel like is, if you guys love football and you ever want to just watch a crazy mad scientist offensive coordinator, watch Penn State football and Andy Kotelnicki, their offensive coordinator. When he was at Kansas, I used to just like my eyes used to light up. Yeah, like, oh my God, yeah. Like what is this? Like swinging gates and all sorts of stuff. So, I feel like Kansas really struggled once they kind of lost him, and it took them some time to get in rhythm with Coach Grimes, because Coach Grimes, the offense looked completely different night and day. So I feel like the quarterback struggled, and also Devin Neal last year struggled a little bit, and they lost a lot of close games. So I feel like Kansas should be much improved, but they lost 2 top corners in Mello Dotson. Also, Mamba Kobe Bryant, who went to the Falcons, I believe. So they lost a lot of talent, but I think this year they should be a little bit more equipped to handle things on the offensive side of the ball. So it's all going to be fun. Can't wait to get out there. They got a brand new stadium that they're building out there in Lawrence, Kansas. My son's actually going to be attending KU this year. I drop him off here in a few days, so I get to go to work, but also hang out with my boys. So it's going to be a fun time out there for college football, and definitely keep an eye on those Jayhawks as well.
That is damn awesome, folks. We will be covering each and every single team, each and every single conference in FBS. Hell, maybe we'll even sprinkle in some FCS. Who knows?
Right.
Folks, thank you so much for tuning in to the first edition of Roundtable CFB. We will see you on the actual channel on Thursday. Until then, we'll see you soon. Peace.